What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Sixers Post Game Live. Today we are breaking down a 30-point W over the Orlando Magic. Top takeaways, player of the game. Quick announcement for the first time ever. I've got my man from Philly Sports Network, Zach. What's going on, dude?
Not much, coming off a great Sixers win. Obviously stoked. Birds are on now, so hopefully a great night in Philadelphia is about to continue. But yeah, riding high after that Sixers win. How's everything with you?
Really good, man, as the Eagles are at 2nd and 10 on their first offensive possession, and Jalen Hurts misses Devontae. But we're kind of trying to do both here. Talking about Sixers, man, there's a lot to break down in this one. A lot of positives. Quentin says, I'm sorry, Doc, because Doc has this roster playing out of its mind right now, and we got to lead off with Shake Milton. Heading into this one, over his last 5 games, hit 47+% of his shots from deep, 20+ points. In this one, he was again outstanding. Shake Milton ended the game 29 points, a +26, 10 of 13 from the floor, 3 of 6 from 3, 7 assists, just 1 turnover. I'll throw it to you, Zach. What was your take on Shake Milton's performance?
Yeah, he's been playing out of his mind. I mean, it's not even just tonight. It's this past stretch that he's been on, specifically the last 3 games. According to StatHead, this is actually the 3rd straight game where he scored at least 20 points. That's the tied for the longest streak of his entire career. That's just some nice, consistent scoring out of him. But tonight, it was more of the same, but it's that confidence, more than anything. Just you watch him play over these past few games, especially tonight. He really seems comfortable against Orlando. And like I said, it's that confidence that you can tell when he's shooting, he's feeling his shot. You just have that much more faith that it's going to go in, and it's been going in. I mean, that's what we're talking about. 3 of 6 from 3 tonight. He's been a lot more aggressive, driving to the basket, getting to the line for 6 free throws, which he knocked down every single one. That's what he's going to have to keep doing when the rest of the roster kind of comes back. When James comes back, when Tyrese comes back, even when Embiid comes back, obviously not the same position, but with the amount of ISO ball that he plays, you're going to need to pivot your role. So this is the Shake Milton, maybe not 29 points per game, though that would be nice. But this, as far as the level of aggression, the confidence, this is what we need from Shake Milton going forward.
I don't know how much better you can get when you're literally perfect inside the 3-point line. This is his shot chart. That's outrageous. Shake Milton is playing
pretty insane.
He's like you said, the confidence, his playmaking. I'm starting to become a believer in that area. I still think the Eagles, Jesus, it's going to be tough tonight. I still think the Sixers need to get a backup point guard, and that's kind of where this conversation starts, Zach. Because let's talk about this and what it means moving forward. Like, I think we need to see some sort of combination of Harden, Melton, Shake, Maxey minutes when everyone gets healthy moving forward. I think Shake is proving that you can play James Harden like 30, 32 minutes a game rather than that like ridiculous 38 minutes a game that we saw prior to this. I think it's time to start having a conversation about maybe Maxey not being the backup point, letting Shake be the backup point, and kind of letting Maxey do what he does best, which is thrive off ball and score the basketball. What is your take on all that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's time for a conversation when it comes to lowering the minutes for most of the Sixers starters. Exactly. A lot of guys who are out there like they're playing playoff minutes, and you can't exactly say with 100% certainty that that this is connected to the amount of injuries that the team has suffered, because every single starter has suffered an injury at one point of the season so far, this very young season. Now, when you look at Tobias and you look at Tucker, they're not held out, of games, or in Tobias's case of as many games. He only missed a couple with the hip injury. But that amount of, usage, and specifically minutes usage, is obviously going to wear on a player's body over an 82 NBA game season. So to have these players show what they're showing now is giving Philadelphia, specifically Doc Rivers, an opportunity at a luxury, which is to be able to lean on these guys a little bit more, exactly like you suggested. So to have Harden, and even to a degree Maxey, like both of them under 35 minutes, that's my first thing. Both of them should be under 35 minutes because you're not playing for the regular season. You're playing for the playoffs. I get it. You started off slow. The record's not where you wanted it to be. But now that you know that you have these guys who, with trust from the coaching staff, can perform, you can rely on them a bit more, and the wins will come, even if you're not seeing 40-minute games from Tyrese Maxey, from James Harden, and of course from Joel Embiid, because we'll talk about this guy more in a little bit, but Paul Reed's been proving to be the perfect backup center as well. But kind of back to the guards, I think that you're 100% right as far as wow, that's a great run by Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I just saw that. I'm freaking out right now.
But yeah, so you are absolutely right as far as this new luxury that Doc has, and we call it a new luxury, but you have to wonder to a degree how long these players have kind of had it within them, and they've just not had an opportunity to show it. That's kind of what we're seeing, with Furkan Korkmaz, obviously Shake Milton, but players given the opportunity typically are going to show off a little bit more, at least on the offensive end. General box, maybe not in efficiency, which I think is what's been most impressive about this, is they're not only putting up numbers, but they're doing so efficiently. That's the big thing, and that's the hope of what can carry over to the next time that they're going to have to do this when Harden, Maxey, and Embiid are back in the lineup. So we'll see what happens, but based on how everybody has played, I have a lot of strong hope, even if the Sixers don't make an immediate move. I have a lot of hope for this season.
I do too, as the Eagles score a touchdown here, get in the end zone up 7-0. Before we get into Paul Reed, because I love talking about Paul Reed, is my favorite thing. But just talk about overall this new look Sixers offense, because coming into this game, they're dead last in points in the paint. Look at that, at the rim, 29 of 33. They ended this game with a ridiculous 72 points in the paint, which is unbelievable considering the small lineups we saw throughout this game, considering how big that Orlando Magic roster is. Just overall, the ball movement has been terrific. It seems like the ball doesn't stop. What are your thoughts? Because is there a silver lining here, man? That these injuries to Maxey and Embiid and Harden have been a blessing in disguise that, it's building the confidence of our bench players. You're starting to kind of see what bench lineups are effective, which ones are not effective, like Harrell and Reed. And there's just been a flip when it comes to entertainment value as well. These Sixers guys are playing with a lot of heart. They're playing with a lot of energy. They're always aggressive to the basketball. It's just nice to see the Sixers playing hard. You're not seeing any sulkiness around the basketball court. Yeah. Like I said, the ball's moving around. They're active defensively. I'm just overly so impressed.
Yeah, I mean, trying to bypass the specific word that you used there, but there is a new attitude, among the entire team, and I think first and foremost you have to credit two people. That's Doc Rivers and that's Tobias Harris for it.
Totally.
It's so easy when you suffer through injuries to the magnitude that Philadelphia has, and they're not the Nuggets of last year. They're not losing any of the guys through the year, as far as we can tell so far. However, you are missing them for an extended period of time. That absolutely changes your entire game plan, just puts it on its head. So instead of, wallowing and, just giving it to Harris a million times in the mid-range and letting him beat DeMar DeRozan, they instead of doing that, they actually turn this into a positive where ball movement is, it's incredible, just like you were saying. And that's something that Doc's been preaching all season long, from the first game. Doc's been telling us post-game that everybody touching the ball. That's something that he wants to see, and that's no matter whether Embiid and Harden are in the game, if they're out of the game, whatever the case may be. But what you're looking at this time around, not only are they getting that ball movement, but if you look, the center of the court is not the paint is not clogged, right? So there's a lot more openings. Guys can drive. You're watching Georges Niang drive, and it is shockingly, it's beautiful in its own way, right? So he tosses up these crazy layups that you're kind of like, no. And then he somehow, like, he goes in. Like, I can't explain it. Like, half of them are circus shots, but that's just the beauty of Georges Niang. Like, it's incredible. You watch Shake Milton. We talked about his aggressiveness. He's able to drive a lot more. DeAnthony Melton. Tobias, now that he's not playing in his, I guess you would call it a 3 and D, like 3 and D, heavy on the 3, light on the D. Like, I don't know, but that's the kind of role he's been playing with. And he's been better defensively. Don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on Tobias. But that's the role he's been playing. Now he has a chance to operate a little bit more. You see him work in the mid-range a little bit, work in the post a little bit. And he does this nice little, he's kind of sets up like a post near the free throw line. And he's able to back down a little bit and either turn into that spinning fadeaway shot that I hate, but he hits consistently, or he's able to drive right to the rack. And so it's been a great opportunity for Harris to do that. There's just a freedom almost with how this team plays. You watch freaking Korkmaz, like he's able to either, wide open knockdown shots, or he's able to dance. He is a pump fake like maestro, and it's against the Orlando Magic. So let's see how it works against like the Milwaukee Bucks, for instance. But at least against the Orlando Magic, his pump fake is something serious. I think that he faked on 3 different occasions, all on one drive, or drive again. Still got the Eagles on, all on one possession down the court. And he drove it in the lane, he drove it back out, and he ended up taking a 3. Like it's almost as if he's kind of just like playing the game with a string on his hand, So it's a fun thing to watch. It's fun basketball. How much can continue when Embiid, when Harden, when Maxey returns? I'm honestly not 100% certain, and my concern doesn't even stem from just Embiid clogging the lane or just Harden dominating the ball per se. It's the fact that you have 2 of the highest ISO usage players in the entire league. And I truly believe that James Harden and Joel Embiid can work together. But if they continue to play this high ISO level type of game, you are just lessening the other players around you. Like when Harden was in Houston, he had guys who would just kill her off the catch and shoot. And you literally just let him go to work. It's a pick and roll with Capella. Harden drives and he dishes it out to whomever, Ben McLemore, Daniel House, like whatever the case may be. With Joel Embiid, it's not necessarily that kind of offense. And then Embiid, meanwhile, he takes the ball down low, continues to work his way down low, passes out of the double team. And so when you're working kind of like that, that's another thing that kind of can't work with Harden also. So you in theory would have a lot of catch and shoot opportunities, but it's kind of muddied up having Harden's ISO and Embiid's ISO kind of working against each other in that sense. So if you work on, you got to find a way for James Harden to work better off the catch and shoot, work better as a just off ball in general. And then as far as Joel Embiid, you have to put a little bit more of the focus on, working on offensive boards and doing kind of a little bit of the little things. But with that being said, he was also playing out of his mind. So how do you ask a guy like that to do that? So maybe it all just comes down to figuring out the splits, and who you pair with whom at the end of the day. And this is going to be a huge test for Doc Rivers to figure that out.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Aaron Rodgers gets picked off here. Eagles are back with the football at the 29-yard line, man. This is great. This is
a beautiful thing having a defense that causes turnovers, isn't it?
It's beautiful. Yeah, it was caused by a Javon Hargrave pressure. Gotta love that. Let's get some comments real quick. Quentin says, I said I would never like Shake. I was wrong. He was playing with confidence and competence. And most importantly, the shot is back. Like, he lost his shot, especially in the catch and shoot, since his TCU days, since his blue coat days. And it's just hasn't been there for him. And I love the confidence we're seeing. The ball's got to be in Shake's hand. And he's not an off-ball guy. It is what it is. Quentin says, like you said, Zach, I fear the ball is going to stick once the starters return. That is the fear there. Doc's got to figure out some sort of offense that gets everyone more involved. Quinn says the new look Sixers look like a ranked NCAA team. Ball movement, player movement, team defense, traps, deflections. Everyone passes. Everyone shoots. Everyone. It seemed like every possession was at least 3 or 4 passes moving the ball around. It's great to see.
And again, that has to continue, and on top of that, you talked earlier about kind of the hesitancy to run Maxey as the backup point. I think you can still split, and I would even encourage on a lot of cases, split Harden and Maxey, but you're going to be running Maxey with Shake and let Shake run the floor, or rather, run the offense. And then that way you have Melton with Harden, right? So
Exactly.
Shake's not like he's not the glove, right? But he is a lengthy, tall and long defender, at the guard who can handle a bit more than, say, Tyrese Maxey defensively. So you're easing that defensive burden for Maxey there. And then conversely, or I guess along the same line of thinking, I should say, for James Harden, by pairing him with Anthony Melton, now you're adding a tricksy defender alongside Harden to kind of help that a little bit as well. And especially considering the size that Harden has compared to, say, Melton and Tyrese Maxey, you can even flip defenders should the situation call for it, and then put Harden on the 2, the bigger 2, and then Melton on the 1. And that's all going to be situational. You're at the end of the day going to put Melton in any Harden Melton lineup. You're going to put Melton on the stronger offensive player, but you have that ability to work it where it's not just against the 2, but you can also defend some of the crafty ones in this league, like a Kyrie Irving, for instance, like a Darius Garland, if, say, Donovan Mitchell's off the court, or whatever else the case may be. So there is an opportunity here to find successful rotations. You got to take some time, experiment with it a little bit, figure out what works and what doesn't, but you can't just keep doing the same old. And that's the lesson that Doc Rivers needs to learn from this, is that he does, in fact, have options, and he needs to try some new stuff, because that's what the regular season's for. You have 82 games to figure this stuff out. It's the playoffs that are the real challenge. While the Sixers, we don't know where they're going to finish come the end of the year. Are they going to be the top seed? Probably not. It's looking far and away like Milwaukee's going to be that 1 seed in the East. Even still, whether you're the 2, the 3, the 4, the 6, like whatever the case is, it's about how you can play in the postseason. So if you figure it out now, like they should have done last year with, say, Paul Reed playing backup center instead of DeAndre Jordan, you're going to save yourself a lot of trouble come the postseason.
Yeah, speaking of, let's get into Paul Reed real quick. I think Paul Reed's 13 rebounds tonight was a Sixers career high. I could be wrong on that. I just skimmed it real quick. But Paul Reed had another sensational game, I thought. Paul had 12 points, 13 boards, 3 offensive, 3 steals, 2 blocks. He had one play where it was a pump fake and a dunk. I forget who that was over. I think it was Bobo. I could be wrong there. But he had another great game, especially defending, contesting shots in the paint. What was your reaction on Paul Reed tonight?
I mean, like always, I love Paul Reed. He's a tough guy not to like. He's been impressive more and more this season, and the more opportunity he's gotten, the more impressive he's been. Obviously, we saw the 6-steal game earlier this season, but he's really kind of coming his own a little bit more, especially defensively and consistently on the board. So I can confirm it was a career high 13 rebounds tonight. His previous was actually 12 rebounds. Do you want to take a shot in the dark against what team that was that he got his last career high in rebounds?
No, man. The Magic?
It was the Orlando Magic once again. So something about playing Orlando, Paul Reed finds the magic. And it's absolutely just it's wonderful that he's able to rebound against Orlando's not a small team, You may not look at the Wagner brothers and look at top flight rebounders, but even still having Mo Bamba on that other side, like there are some capable rebounders in Orlando, or at least a height disadvantage. So for Reed, who is still at a height disadvantage, to be rebounding the way that he is against a young, athletic, tall, lengthy team like this, that's an absolutely great sign. Something that he more than likely will be able to carry over to some degree. Does he make boneheaded mistakes every now and again? Absolutely. That's going to lead to some turnovers. That's going to lead to, 4, 5, sometimes even 6 fouls. Mm-hmm. Guess what? He's your backup center, right? He's not starting for you. It's not the biggest issue in the world necessarily. Like, obviously, you want him to clean up the fouls. In time, maybe he will. 5 turnovers tonight, that obviously can't happen. I think that he handled the ball a bit more than he's going to in most games, right? He's not playing 30 minutes most games. On top of that, this was a blowout. And not that that's an excuse to play sloppy, because you never want to play sloppy because you'll just let a team get back into it. However, we've seen Joel kind of make these same tendencies, these same mistakes with the ball as well, just trying to do too much. And if I got a guy who is capable of these things and he's just not getting it yet, then in these games that essentially don't matter, I'm more than happy to let him try and kind of work through his demons on his own. So opportunities like this for Paul Reed, it's insane. 6 for 6 on the floor, 13 rebounds, like you said. On top of that, 3 steals, 2 blocks. Like, I have no complaints of how Paul Reed played tonight, and I need to see more of him when Joel Embiid comes back.
Yeah, I'm looking at the personal fouls. You look at, per 36 minutes, they've gone up from 6.8 to 7.6. But it is what it is. Like, this is what we need to see from Doc Rivers. Give him playing time and let him work through it. That means everything for the playoff push. It means everything for the playoff run. We have to just let Paul Reed go through those growing pains. GSC says Reed's defense is absurd. I could care less if he gets 4 fouls in 12 minutes. He needs to be on the court, Embiid or not. And Quinn says, I love Paul Reed's traps on the perimeter. Well, let's wrap it up before we get into player of the game. A little bit about DeAnthony Melton, because we didn't get to do a post-game Saturday, or is it Friday? It was Thanksgiving, and there was a lot of things happening. But Melton, his jump shooting, both off the catch and off the dribble, has been so freaking good. So much improvement. His shooting overall is a big reason why this offense is, big reason why the Sixers are even involved offensively in some of these games. I think he's showing much more comfortability off the dribble. And he's being more another really strong game. Again, he had 11 points, 3 steals in 29 minutes. He's not the, floor general that we want him to be, but I'm just been so overly impressed by this guy. And I'm even more excited when you kind of look big picture wise, him coming off the bench and what that means moving forward. So what was your take on DeAnthony Melton?
Yeah, obviously, Melton overall lately has been phenomenal. You look at his previous 3 games coming into tonight, 19 points, 22 points, 20 points. The scoring has absolutely gone up. That was something that I wasn't even aware that Melton was capable of. We saw the efficiency in Memphis, but we never really saw aggression, with his own shot. It's not something that he had to do, while he was in Memphis. So to see that now here, in this moment of need, I think it was absolutely huge for the Sixers, and especially when you look at the consistency with the shot from deep. Last 2 games, a little bit of a struggle. I don't know if that's kind of an adjustment to the high minutes that he's been playing. He's been playing north of 32 minutes each of the past 5 games, or is that more so something of just going through a slump? Sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. But either way, I think that he's been incredibly impressive on both sides of the court. An absolute steal for Philadelphia. Like to give up, and I like David Roddy coming into the draft, right? But to give up David Roddy and Danny Green for DeAnthony Melton, like that's an absolute no-brainer. Like 10 times out of 10. It was a great deal at the time for Philadelphia, but it's only gotten better and better through hindsight. So to have him, to have confidence in the backup guard situation to a degree, I think, like you said, can this team get better, with guard on the bench? Like possibly. I think a nice sizable, you're likely going to have to pick. Ideally, you want a sizable 3-and-D guard. That's not necessarily going to happen. Like DeAnthony Melton with height, you're not just going to go out and get one of those guys unless somehow you like fall into Mike Conley and he's going to play off your bench, right? So if you're looking for potential counterpart, you're looking more so for those points. But DeAnthony Melton just like screams playoff player. Some of those guards, you look at and you're like, oh, this guy's going to get played off the court. Like a Patty Mills, for instance. Like, yeah, he can light it. And granted, he's a few years past this, but he can light it up on occasion. He's electric, stuff like that. But there's times where he can get played off the court because his defense is so bad. That's not the case with Anthony Melton, right? The offense is there. He's able to play within a role and not have to, play specifically off his own game. And the defense is always there as well. So I can't say enough great things about Anthony Melton. I'm just happy he's on our side.
Absolutely agree. Let's get into player of the game. SB Cole says this unit, along with the big three, are good enough to go deep into the postseason. I like Harrell, but he's the most expendable player on this roster. I could not agree more. He even had like 5 points, like 5 or 6 quick points in this game, but it's the same situation. Yeah, he has 5 or 6 points, but if you look at the other end, the Magic were literally did not miss inside the paint. Like they were, he doesn't stop anybody. So I look at both ends. So let's get into this. And this is like the most hilarious comment because this is where I'm going. I'm going to go first. My player of the game, a guy that I've ripped for a good chunk of this game, is Danuel House Jr. Had by far his best game as a Sixer. Danuel House Jr. had 19 points, 8 of 10 from the free throw line, only 1 of 4 from 3, but he did have a block. I thought his defense was absolutely terrific in the second half. He was everywhere, loose balls, being aggressive, active. Danuel House Jr., I don't know what the heck was going on before the game, but I must have seen at least 4 or 5 step back jump shots in this one, and it was hilarious. He kept doing it and doing it and doing it until he made one, I think in the third or fourth quarter. I like the aggressiveness. Talk about bench players growing confidence, because Danuel House has really struggled as a Sixer. You talk about expendable. Danuel House would probably be right underneath. Did I lose you?
Just for a half second, but I got you. Danuel House, yeah, absolutely.
I lost internet or something for a second. I lost everything. But Danuel House Jr., that's my player of the game. That's a guy that I've ripped, and I got to give credit where credit is due, just like Nick said. I'm going Danuel House Jr. Where are you going?
Yeah, well, first let me say Danuel House, absolutely phenomenal game. Like this is exactly what Philadelphia was expecting and more, right? So the defense was exactly where they hoped it would be. Even I would argue above. It was reminiscent of what he showed in Utah towards the end of last season. Now, what was a bit unexpected and pleasant was his aggression and the trips to the free throw line, which were huge. I want to see more of that in the future. Always want to encourage aggression within control, right? So this isn't necessarily like what we've seen from Paul Reed, where sometimes it draws offensive fouls, but this is stuff where you're getting guys to the line, you're getting the opposition in foul trouble. This is exactly what the Sixers need from their bench, guys who are willing and able shooters, play hard defense, and are aggressive in drawing contact. So absolutely great game from Danuel House. Now, my player of the game is, I don't know if I would say a bit more obvious, but at the same time, it's kind of like almost a cop-out, because it's not just the game that he had on the floor, but it's what he's done for this team on and off in this game and more. But Tobias Harris, once again, led these Philadelphia 76ers. Like, what he's done is absolutely incredible. I had the opportunity to hear him speak just a couple games ago. Actually, it was the Brooklyn games night. Ben Simmons came back to Philadelphia. And to hear him talk about his motivation in not just that game, but just these games, without Embiid, without Maxey, without James Harden, just the leadership qualities, they get talked about and then kind of swept under the rug with Tobias Harris. This man is one of the most impressive leaders that I've ever interacted with in the NBA. I mean, he is absolutely just a sage of wisdom, and he may not play up to his contract, as many people are very willing to point out, but I would strongly argue that his value goes far beyond the box score, and he's provided pretty good value on the box score as well lately. So another night, 10 for 14 from the field, 2 from 3, perfect at the free throw line, also 25 points plus 20, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. there's nothing to not like about Tobias Harris' game tonight, and I heavily credit him in his role in not just these last few wins for the Sixers, but on top of that, how he's helped along the bench units, because you hear him talk post game and he's so ready to talk about George Niang, D'Anthony Melton, Shake Milton, Paul Reed, like so on and so forth. Like, you just love to hear that from one of the leaders in the locker room, and it's so clear and evident that Tobias Harris is just that. I forget who posted the comment earlier, but I know that somebody watching along said that they didn't want to hear anything more about trading Tobias. Quentin Moore, he said he didn't want to see any more Tobias trade talk. And listen, I'm going to be honest. Like, is his name going to just fall out of the rumors? Absolutely not. With that being said, like, the value Tobias is providing to this team is absolutely real. This isn't some, I like to use the term living trade exception. That's not what Tobias Harris is, like, at all. His other teams may not view him as a positive asset, but for Philadelphia, he's absolutely a positive asset. And if you're not going to get better in a Tobias Harris trade, just don't do it. It's that simple. Do not make the deal. Continue to have him, because he's shown that he can contribute both in a lead role such as this and a support role like he has alongside Joel, alongside James, alongside Tyrese. So for me, Tobias Harris, player of the game, player of the week for the Philadelphia 76ers. And I just can't wait to see what he does tomorrow against Atlanta.
I love it. I absolutely love it. He's kind of like the Phillies version of Rhys Hoskins. Like, you might not like his defense, but he's got way more value on the team than off the team, considering what the return would be. There's just no team's going to give you a great player for Tobias Harris.
Not easy to replace 30 home runs.
Exactly, right?
And Tobias Harris basketball equivalent, it's not easy to replace that. The efficiency from three, the leadership to this team, it's not easy. I think Rhys is a very good comparison.
Yeah. SB Cole says we should appreciate Tobias more. The only issue is that he gets paid too much. If he got paid 20 to 25 mil, then you'd be a fan favorite, man. It's all about that contract. Absolutely, man. Let's wrap it up. Dude, tell us a little bit about what you got going on over there at Philly Sports Network, man.
Yeah.
Plugs, like all that kind of stuff, because time's yours.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, first and foremost, let me just say I'm happy to be on. I'm happy to be talking with you again, my good friend, and talking Sixers, of course, but Philly Sports Network, that's where you can check out my work. The rest of my team, the entire Philadelphia 76ers team there, you can check out our work on our podcast, The Baseline Scoop, with the host, myself, and then my guys, Justin Crosby, Andy Quach on there with me also. Keep an eye out. Maybe you will see me on the floor at Sixers home games, now that we are actually down there in the building. Very excited about that. Hoping to provide even better quality Sixers content going forward. So, let's just, and follow me on Twitter at ZChavo. Let's get some more Sixers dialogue going, because there's one thing I love talking about is basketball, and specifically the Philadelphia 76ers. So one more time, I'm just grateful for all you watching, all you listening, and thank you so much for having me on the post game.
Dude, thank you for hopping on. ZChavo on Twitter, Philly Sports Network, Baseline Scoop. If you love Sixers content, whatever it is, go spread the love, man. Amazing content. Again, thank you everyone for commenting tonight. Comments were awesome again. Sixers get the W here by 30 points. Thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you on the next post game. We will have Eagles halftime live and Eagles post game live right after this. I will not be doing that. I am going to bed and probably watching the Eagles game tomorrow morning because I work so freaking early. Isn't that great? Tomorrow's gonna be rough, man. I've been off work basically all last week, and
man,
it's one of those.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
So, for my man Zach, for myself, thanks for watching, guys. Go Sixers, and see you on the next post game. Peace.